Alrighty, this is an analysis of Jack White's Love Interruption. It's not like I'm going to write an essay or anything, but I just want you to see the process that I go through um, when I approach a song or when I approach a poem, really, or even some other kind of text. The process itself is essentially the same, um, but this is for a song. If you have not yet done so, please listen, pause this video and listen to Jack White's Love Interruption and read the lyrics as you do so. All right, I assume you've had the chance to do that. And your first reaction to this song is, well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because he's got all this violent imagery in there, and yet he says, and I've got a copy here. He says, I want love to stick a knife inside me and twist it all around in the first verse. And yet the chorus to this repeats, and I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me. What could be more interrupting than being stabbed, huh? So there's this apparent lack of meaning in the song. And what we have to do first, of course, before we can establish a statement of theme, what does the song say about love or love relationships? We have to figure out what the song means, okay? And that's what you do is you start looking at the details and picking it apart. So I'm going to go to a screen share and we'll look at the lyrics. And they're here somewhere. There they are. All right. So here we have the lyrics to Jack White's Love Interruption. And usually, I work with a set of colored highlighters and a pen, but there's no reason that you can't annotate a text as a Word document either. So that's what I'm going to start out doing. I want love to roll me over slowly, stick a knife inside me and twist it all around. And with short text like a song or a poem, or even a very short story, the best way to approach this is kind of a top to bottom analysis, at least until you're ready to write, and then you might have to figure out a different means of presentation. But we've got this first line, I want love to roll me over slowly. Sounds rather romantic, right? Wake me up in the morning, roll me over slowly. And then in the second line, stick a knife inside me and twist it all around. So we have this rather gentle first line, right? And I'm going to highlight that with an underline. Whoop, not what I meant to do. Okay, a single underline. And then the second line, this very violent line, I do intend to double underline to show that those two are different somehow. And then we've got the third line, I want love to grab my fingers gently. Again, except for the word grab, the idea of taking one's fingers gently at least is relatively romantic or soft. And then we've got this juxtaposition. Slam them in a doorway, put my face into the ground. So I'm going to mark that with another double line. I've also noticed something else about this. We have the words slowly and gently, and that ly sound produces a rhyme, slowly, gently. So we have a rhyme there, and we've got around. I'm going to change colors because it's a different sound. Let's try something pretty dark. Around and ground. Okay. And those two words rhyme. Around, ground. And they've got the same N sound to them. So we have what's called here an alternating rhyme scheme. If we were to label this, it would go A, B, A, B. But what we've got is this back and forth, back and forth. The rhyme scheme is consistent with this idea of gentle to violent, slowly around, gently ground. Okay, so I'm starting to see stuff, this sort of back and forth motion. Then we get to the lines, I want love too. And it's kind of interesting here. I want love to murder my own mother. And we've got the openings of all these lines that I want love to colon. And a colon, of course, suggests an announcement after that. So I want love too. And then an announcement of what that desire is. I want love to murder my own mother, take her off to somewhere like hell or up above. Oh, okay. We've got a pretty violent line here. Okay. So I'm gonna do the double underline again. Take her off to somewhere like hell or up above. Now again, we've got this mixture happening here. We've got hell, a violent sort of an image, and we have up above, which of course would be heaven. And that's a kinder, gentler sort of idea. Now we've got a different kind of order. The order is suddenly reversed here. We've got violent, violent, gentle again. Okay, now you have to make sense of this, you know, you might have to know a little bit about Freudian psychology. Okay, and I'm going to put a note here. And to do that, I go to review and I'm going to put new comment. And in this comment box, I am going to put the words Oedipus complex. Okay. And this was a theory that Freud had where, for our purposes, a very simplified version, it was Freud's theory went something like when young men are starting to be aware of their world, they fall in love with their mothers. And also part of that theory is that they begin to see their father as a rival and want to murder them. Interesting that the word is murder my own mother. This is kind of a reversal, but for our purposes, the thing that's happening here is he is sort of personified love. A personification is when an inanimate thing is given human attributes. And love in this has been given the ability to physically roll one over, to stab someone, to grab fingers, to slam them in a doorway, and to murder. So love has become a person, and he wants this person to murder his mother, to murder his first love, and thus displace her in his life. Okay. All right. This is all a little bit complicated, I know, but we're getting there. Again, if you don't know any Freudian psychology, this can be a little bit mysterious. But the next set of lines, and I want love too, the and indicating that we're reaching a conclusion to this series of announcements. Change my friends to enemies. Change my friends to enemies and show me how it's all my fault. Okay, and again, we've got some pretty violent sort of stuff happening here. The word enemies is inherently violent, and it gets repeated twice. And then we've got this idea of it's all my fault. And the word fault we might also list as a sort of negative, violent word. Okay, but this last set of lines is a little bit easier. You know, I'll just ask you, when you first enter a new relationship, you know, a girl from like outside the circle of your friends, what happens? You start to spend more time with that person. Your friends are like, man, we haven't gone out in a long time. We should go out. Where have you been? What's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? And you say, well, I just met this girl. And they're like, oh, yeah, right. She's more important than us. We've been around your whole life. What? Pussy whooped, right? change my friends to enemies, disassociate me from my friends. Okay, we all know this. It happens with men, women, everybody that enters a relationship, and that relationship starts to control their life. Okay, so that's the first verse. And, again, um, uh, songs are organized into verses, choruses. There may be what we call an outro. Um, this song seems to be defined into two verses and a chorus. And the chorus repeats, but not quite exactly, if I remember right. We'll look at that as we go. I'm going to skip the chorus. Well, let's not. Let's do it. And I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me. I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me. Yeah, I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me anymore. That repetition is almost a chant, right? It's almost like, I won't let this happen. I won't let this happen. I won't let this happen anymore, which suggests that it has happened in the past. Love has been disruptive, it has been corruptive, it has interrupted the speaker, singer. And you probably noticed in other documents that I always refer to the speaker, singer instead of the artist, because lots of times songs are covers. And lots of times the speaker, singer, the songwriter, when you read a piece of fiction, you do not assume that the protagonist is the author. It can be a fictional character. And in songs and in poems, we tend to assume that the writer is talking about themselves, but that's not always the case. They can be imaginative explorations. So you don't want to say, Jack White has felt disrupted, corrupted, and interrupted. It's not necessarily true. Okay. So you always say the speaker, the singer, right? It helps make that differentiation. Um, I've a lot of songs again happen as covers. I can think of a song right off the top of my head. Steve Earle sings a song called Delta Boy, and the speaker of that song is obviously female, right? Or homosexual, I suppose, but it's assumed that the speaker is female, and yet here's this guy singing it, and when you're listening to it, you're like, it's a little bit weird at first, you know, but eventually you're just like, well, he's just covering a song, that he didn't write it, and he did not write it. So be careful about the way you address the speaker in a piece of literature, or I could probably just say singer when there's a song, but I always like making the distinction. Okay, so we've got this idea that this has happened to the speaker, singer before. Okay, and we've got this juxtaposition again of what is wanted from love in the first verse and what has happened with love in the past. Okay, now let's move on down to the second, and I guess I don't really have to scroll when I'm doing a screen share, do I? Um, I want love to walk right up and bite me. Okay, we're not seeing the gentle part anymore. As a matter of fact, we haven't seen gentle since the words up above. Okay, so walk right up and bite me. And I got to go back, I believe, to this. Grab a hold of me and fight me, leave me dying on the ground. Violent. I want love to split my mouth wide open, cover up my ears and never let me hear a sound. This one's not exactly violent. Cover up my ears. Now, this is just this kind of action. I guess it's kind of violent. And never let me hear a sound is again this sense of isolation, right? That we experienced in these lines. So we've got this idea here again, maybe I should mark this. Change my friends to enemies. If I go back to review a new comment, I can put in the idea of isolation here, and I can do the same thing down here. I can put in a note that says isolation again. And of course, I can see these comments if I really want to. Somewhere there's a way to put show comments, and you can see them written on the side of the page. So now we have a complete change in this song. Or how you have defended me when everybody tore me. Or, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm a line ahead. We've got the I want love too again. There's a sense of consistency, 3 sets of lines, and perhaps I should show that somehow. I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to go to black, but I'm also going to go to, oh, where's it at? Here we go. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to change those to that. I want love too. And I should probably be including the colon. And I'm going to go here and here. And what I do when I do this stuff, what I'm doing is I'm forming a kind of a picture of the construction of the poem that lets me access data, right? All of these are little data points in understanding this thing. And I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I mark all this data, and then I can see it so much more easily. It allows me to make connections sometimes that I wouldn't otherwise make. I want love to forget that you. An introduction of a pronoun. And we suddenly have an address here. You. There's a you that this person is talking to. And I think I might have introduced this term before. It's not clear whether the you is standing right in front of him or not. Ooh, that's a horrible color. It's hard to see. We've already done red. We've already done blue. Let's try purple for the you. And that doesn't even show up very well. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do, let's try green, but in that mode. Okay. Or how you sort of bolds it and greens it. We could even do a little bit more with it. We could go you, and it's already bolded. That's apparently what I did. And we could underline it, and the underlines will come out in the same green, and that will help make them distinct from the underlines we were using before. Again, this process of marking up a text is called annotation. Anyway, it's not clear whether that you is standing right there, if he's talking to that person, or if he is, excuse me, or if he is talking to that person in absentia, right? They're not there. Okay, he's writing the song to them, but they are unable to answer. They do not answer in the song. So maybe they're not there. Okay. And once again, I'm seeing that same juxtaposition, that same alternation. Offended. Going to do the double outline again. Or defended. Go back. That's a good thing, right? So we've got offended, defended, that back and forth again. And now it's associated with a person, a you. And my guess would be, and we might notice that offended is past tense. Okay. And here we have anymore, suggesting that something happened in the past, that this disruption, corruption, interruption, and it seems to be associated with this you. This was a person who who worked the speaker singer both ways, right? They offended them, they defended them, they were back and forth. Maybe they were a little wishy-washy, who knows? But we've got this juxtaposition of good things and bad things now associated with you. And then we've got a slight change. Yeah, and I want love too. Not and I want love too, but yeah, and I want love too. This is kind of an address to that you. Yeah. Like, I remember these things. Yeah. And I want love too. Change my friends to enemies, change my friends to enemies, and show it's all how it's all my fault. We get the repetition of the same lines that closed the first verse in the second verse as well. Kind of an interesting move, but we've got this word yeah here, and it's working in an entirely different way. I'm just going to boldface it black. Okay. And again, we have the same change here. Instead of and, we have, and whoa, there's a new piece of data. I'm going to italicize that. A new piece of data. This is and this is yeah. Another sort of a flip-flop. And the second time, it emphasizes that this is being told to a you. Yeah, I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me. I won't let love disrupt, corrupt, or interrupt me. Yeah, I won't let love disrupt. Oh, look. There it is up there. And here it is here. Hard to say quite what that means when it slinks in early up there, but maybe that sort of announces that we're going to, that the address is about to begin. I'm not sure because I haven't talked to the writer of this song. You know, I'm speculating. A lot of analysis is speculation. But what we've got here is a person who has left the speaker feeling betrayed somehow. You've offended me. You've defended me. They're conflicted. And that conflict has produced disruption, corruption, and interruption in the person's life and maybe in the way that they feel about the you. I don't feel good about you anymore. You've disrupted our relationship. You've corrupted our relationship. You've interrupted my feelings. I don't want that. I want a love that is going to get my attention completely. It's going to take me away, and it's going to be pure and true and all-consuming. Not like the love that I have with you. Yeah. 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 We're getting somewhere here. Okay. So even though this starts out not making any sense, we've managed to make some sense out of it, which makes it what we call a paradox. Something which initially does not make sense, but which upon close inspection does in fact make sense. So this song has given us this thing that we have to figure out, and there's that reward in doing it. And I really would encourage you in a song analysis, if you haven't picked a song yet, avoid the ones that are too easy. They won't give you anything to talk about in your paper. Try and find a song that you have to think about. You know, because if you don't have to think about it, if the words are very literal, okay, you know, we have to assume that these are in fact not literal, right? That Jack White doesn't really want anyone to stab him, to break his fingers, to deafen him, to turn his friends to enemies. These are what we call figurative turns of phrase. well, you know, we're also making a statistical assumption. Oh, I used the word Jack White. I'm sorry. I meant the speaker, writer, singer, whatever. Um, we have to assume that the speaker singer of this is probably not one of the very small percentage of the human population that actually enjoys pain, right? I mean, that's a possibility, but statistically speaking, the speaker is not that. So we have to assume this is figurative language, language that's meant to deliver a message other than the literal. And how that started was I was talking about if you picked a song with lyrics that are very literal, you have a problem because all you're going to be able to do is paraphrase that song. You're not going to be able to analyze it. Okay. Just a little warning. Anyways, we're getting close here. I'm going to have you stop the video again and listen to the music. Okay. And um, I'm going to do the same a little bit at a time. First, you should probably, you know, listen. All right. I'm going to assume you're back. I am not yet listening to the song. I'm going to go to a screen share here. Of course, I've got this turned off because you can't hear my speakers anyway. And I'm going to call this song up and I'm going to listen to the first until the words start. Starts out with an electric piano and a guitar. Okay, an electric piano and a guitar, two instruments. The guitar is being strummed very gently and, you know, could be the background for just about anything, even a love song. But the electric piano, it sounds kind of weird. Something is wrong in that music. And I don't know if it's a minor chord, okay, because I'm not a musician, but I know that the sound of that electric piano makes me uneasy. Okay. Now I'm going to listen to a little bit more. The vocals are starting in my recording. Two voices, a male and a female. And then the female cuts out and it's just the male voice. The female voice and the male voice saying, I want love to. Roll, I'm going to have to back up just a little bit because I'm interested here. Okay. And I'll back up a little. I want love to is sung by both voices. Okay. And then the male voice, in this case, I can say Jack White because it is him singing, but the male voice says, roll me over slowly all by itself. And then the female voice joins back in for the stick a knife inside me. And then fades back out again for the twisted all around. The female voice exits again for the twisted all around. So what we've got is a half a line of male and female, and a half a line of just male, and a half a line of male and female, and a half a line of just male. That back and forth motion again. So even in the way the vocals are presented, we're getting that back and forth motion. Two instruments, back and forth motion. Well, not back and forth, but different from one another. Two voices, half lines mixed and together. And the gentle roll me over slowly is just male. And the violent part is where the female comes in. Again, the suggestion that maybe the you, the partner in this past relationship, he feels like what happened in that relationship was violent. He says it's disruptive, corruptive, interruptive. Those are fairly violent words too, especially disruptive, corruptive. My, disrupt, corrupt, actually, in the lyrics. I'm going to listen a little more. Oh, okay. Same thing happened in those lines. The next pair of lines. I want love too, both people. Grab my fingers gently, male. Ooh, the fourth line, the one that says, and I'll have to read it here. Slam them in a doorway, put my face into the ground, both voices throughout. In the next pair of lines, I want love to, both voices, murder my own mother, just male, take her off to somewhere like hell or up above, both voices again. Of course, the male voice is predominant in these. And in that last pair of line, mixed voices, male voice, mixed voices, male voice. So we're seeing that same kind of juxtaposition. And juxtaposition is when two different things are kind of rammed up against each other. Okay. When I use the term juxtaposition, that's what I mean. Two different things that are sort of mushed up against each other. Again, this sort of paradoxical arrangement in what we're hearing. Okay, now I'm going to listen to the the chorus. Okay, that was kind of interesting. Again, you get that repetition, but it was male and female, but with the male voice dominant in that, like if the female voice represents the you, she's there playing in the back of his head. You know, he's dominant. He's the one saying, "I won't let this happen anymore." But that you is there, is playing in the back of his head the whole time he's saying this, until we get to the anymore, and then it's just the male voice, that voice that says, "No, I won't let this happen anymore. You're out," and the female voice is gone. Right. Okay. Second verse. Well, we get a little musical interlude. Interesting. The first two lines are the male and female voice together, but the instrumentation in the background goes out. It becomes just the two people. Remember, I suggested that yeah at the end of the first chorus might start to introduce the idea of a dress. All of a sudden, the instruments are gone. We have two people in this violent situation in the first two lines of the second verse. Okay, in the next pair of lines, the instrumentation comes back in. Both voices are there, but the female voice is kind of intermittent. And I think I've noticed that in other parts of the first verse too, but I didn't really recognize them then. But now I am. It's like I don't always hear the female voice. It's sort of drops in and out. It's inconsistent. Oh, kind of like that you, inconsistent. And maybe that's why I noticed it now, because I'm getting there. I've now got the two people together in my head, and I'm starting to hear them more. I hope that makes sense. All right, forward. All right, here we get that same sort of mixed voices in and I want love to, and then just the male voice in the forget that you offended me, but both voices in or how you have defended me when everybody tore me down. You know, it's like the female voice drops out when it's negative, doesn't want to, you know, admit that part, looks away. But when he talks about how she defended him, then the voice is there the whole time. Lots of interesting things. This is, you know, obviously a really good song. Lots of things to think about here. Now, how much of that's going to make it into my final statement? Or, well, actually, when I form my thesis statement, I have to consider a lot of details. So you want to accommodate as many details as you can, but this is definitely would definitely make it into the evidence of an analytical paper, right? All this stuff is appropriate and reinforces the main idea that I'm starting to formulate in my noggin here. Now, again, all these details are adding up to something, and I'm starting to feel a shape in my head. So the last two lines, the repeated lines from the first verse and the second verse, we get that um, mixed voice first part, male voice second part, and sometimes there was a place where the female voice was just an ooh, not really language at this point, maybe a sort of vocal reaction, and that might have been happening before, and I just didn't notice it. Okay, I'd have to, you know, and one thing about this, uh, before I even started this, I have listened to this song many, many times, and I've read the lyrics many, many times. And, but this is how it starts. You have to take things apart. Uh oh. I hope that the video didn't drop out on your end because I'm recording to my own computer, but that was kind of strange. Um, we've experienced those dropouts before. I wish I had realized that it was happening. And I go back to screen share because I lost that. Okay, and I need my audio player back. And now I'm going to listen to the last chorus. Wow, some interesting things there. I listened all the way to the end of this song. And first thing I noticed was that the last yeah on the lyric sheet wasn't actually repeated in the sung version. It was dropped. Okay, so maybe I should do a little bit of work to my lyric sheet and get that out of there, because I do in fact want my lyrics to be consistent with what I'm actually hearing. Um, but what I noticed was that the female voice stayed very strong throughout those lyrics of the chorus. And then when the chorus ended, the electric piano dropped out and it was just the guitar for a while. And again, if the guitar represents the uncorrupted nature of the relationship, I kind of found it interesting that that was kind of like that you voice disappearing from the song, but then it worked its way back in again. And in fact, the last note of the song is the electric piano. So that's kind of an odd musical statement that this relationship can't be shaken. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna get rid of my media player and let's get rid of this. Okay. That's more true to what we actually heard. And of course, this is now sort of useless to us except to look at. But now I've got all these details that I need to reconcile. I've got this back and forth motion. I've got the alternating rhyme schemes. We have Helen up above. Um, we've got this idea of offended and defended, and this the idea that this relationship was in fact disruptive. It left him in a state of conflict, the speaker in a state of conflict all the time. He was disrupted, corrupted, or interrupted, as suggested by Any More. And this song becomes a plea to love. I want love to. It's been personified, right? This is a sort of a plea to love, to change his relationship, or to, if he's leaving the relationship, to find a new relationship where that does not happen. So if I'm going to formulate a statement of theme for this song, you know, what the you has done apparently is not like infidelity. Okay, it's just that she's back and forth and that messes him up. So I need to incorporate that idea. And I need to think about the speaker's anger here. And he's angry. You know, he's got some really violent language here. So I need to think about that emotional tone of anger in this song. And, you know, it may be towards the partner, or maybe it's towards himself for letting it happen. You know, we don't know, but we can, you know, but even announcing that there's an ambiguity. And an ambiguity is when something can be more than one thing. An ambiguous word is like the word blue, for instance, which can mean a color or it can mean an emotion, right? It's ambiguous until you put it within a context. But the one thing that we do know is that he doesn't want that to continue. So if I were to formulate a statement of theme for this song, it would go like this. Many, if not most, relationships end not due to some transgression like adultery or domestic violence, but due to simple clashes of personality. One or both partners' character quirks wear on the other, and the love relationship is simply not enough to offset the ongrowing irritation. When such a relationship ends, a person may feel anger toward the partner, towards themselves, maybe even toward love itself. Feeling cheated by love, but recognizing the need and desire for it, one may vow to fall again only to a love so powerful as to be all-consuming. Okay, I think that that covers just about everything I saw going on in this song, or close to it, right? Might have been a few omitted details in there, and I will put this statement somewhere that you won't find it until after you watch this video. Okay, um, that's kind of a cheat, but I can do that. Hadn't occurred to me until just now that you'll want access to that statement, perhaps. Maybe I'll put it in a news item. Okay. The point is, remember a statement of theme. You'll notice that when I made that statement of theme, it did not mention the song at all. It talked about people and relationships. A statement of theme is generalized in such a way that can appeal to the reader of the essay themselves. And then the song becomes an example of that kind of relationship. And if you introduce that very generalized statement at the beginning of your essay, the reader goes, yeah, I know that feeling. And they get involved, right? And if you repeat it in the conclusion, then the reader leaves your essay not necessarily thinking about Jack White's love interruption, but how that very important idea of an all-consuming love, or the desire for an all-consuming love, is playing in their lives. And that makes your essay so powerful when it connects to the reader like that. So please consider that sort of move, rhetorical, strategical move when you write an essay. All right. And I'm all hyped up, but I don't have anything else to say. So I'm gonna quit the screen share here. I hope. There we go. Come back to you full on. Which I probably should have been doing when I was given that big appeal for, yeah, go back to your audience, connect with your audience again. I should be in your face when I'm doing that. Right. But I hope that what has happened here is you see the idea of analysis, the idea that you approach a complex text and you take it apart to figure out what it means. And then that those ideas, those things that you recognized in the taking apart, they're going to become the evidence in your essay. So that's it. Have a good day.